So I decided to stay with this awakening wisdom piece. And the reason is that I was reflecting on a phrase that's commonly been heard in inspired texts related to Jesus. And that is that it's said over and again, Jesus grew in wisdom. He grew in wisdom. That word is attached to him, especially in the recorded events where you've got him moving from his private life into a public ministerial life. And you've got it situated that when he enters a temple, like they're surprised by his wisdom when he's 12 years old. And as he gets older, he grew in wisdom and stature. And you've got all these references where you could say a lot of different things about Jesus. And one of the things that we have recorded, again, if it's true and if it's historically accurate, but we're simply going to go on the spirit of the message on this, is that there was something closely aligned with Jesus's union with the divine and being wise or growing in wisdom, that they seem closely aligned. Now, in the first talk, you had that reference to wisdom played before the Lord, and prophetic speaking, people see Jesus as the wisdom of God, if you're looking at theology that way. But I'm less interested in that for this reflection and this meditation, and a little more interested in what does it mean? What's the impact that we have wisdom being one of the chief qualities of awakening? Now, Jesus is clearly compassionate, but you don't see that word used as much, though you've got evidence of compassion, but you see the word wisdom used a lot. And I know I have oftentimes used this passage in various talks that we have, or different meditations over the year. I've oftentimes used this phrase in a lot of different ways. I'm going to state it here again. It'll be very familiar. It's from Luke chapter 4, verse 17 through 21. And the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." Then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him. He began by saying to them, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." Now, if we follow the logical line, it sounds one line of logic. It sounds a bit like this. Jesus was born into the world with great grace. This boy seemed to have an innate wisdom. This boy grew in that wisdom. This boy had a presence that drew others to listen to him or to look to him. This young man had a dove descend and say that he was beloved and that people should listen to him. This man took off into the desert and went through more formation in wisdom. And this man emerged at that point through all of this and all of this recollection of his life, and gave this reading, and then said something pretty profound. Today it's fulfilled. Now, if all the way up to the point of that reading, it's true that wisdom is being incarnate, then it pulls us to pay attention to what's being said there. And what's being said there is, when we embody wisdom, Jesus is embodying wisdom, when we embody wisdom, then the fulfillment of that scripture happens within us and from us. That's that line, because if Jesus is wisdom incarnate at this point, and incarnation is the word made flesh, is the divine in form, then we're in that same trajectory. The same calling is ours. On this level of being wisdom, the same calling is true for all of us. It's not that some of us are called to be wise and others are not. It's that wisdom is part of the essential nature of our divinity. So, therefore, we've got this scripture passage, which can always rock us if we look at it that way. If it's true for Jesus and it's true for us, what does it mean that the Spirit of the Lord is upon us, that we are anointed, that we are called to proclaim words of compassion and healing and consolation, that we are part of the process of the freedom of all, that we are part of the process of recovery of sight for those who are blind, that we are part of the process of freedom from oppression for all living things, that we are part of the process of proclaiming that now, that in this moment, salvation is here. In this moment, the fullness of grace can be experienced. And that ultimately we're called not only to be that, but we are called to say, and today it is fulfilled. Now, it's one thing to be a healer. It's another thing to be able to speak without any self-reflectiveness that healing comes through us. I mean, it's just rich, rich, rich in calling to be able to be the wisdom and proclaim we are the wisdom, which pushes on traditional Western ideas of what it means to be humble and not toot your own horn. But in this way, to proclaim the embodiment of wisdom is to proclaim divinity. Now that's very powerful, I think, and it's worthy of us reflecting. When I see myself as awakening in wisdom, when I see myself awakening in wisdom as wisdom, does anything in this passage hold true for me? Is that so? Can I tell that when I am aligned with spirit, can I tell? Can I tell because the fruit of my being is a healing presence? And am I able to own it without worry that people are seeing me as egotistical or self-oriented? Am I able to own it? So we're going to do something that is a first in these 4 years. For Advent or Lent, we are going to do the mantra we did yesterday. Because that mantra, that touching in on that divine feminine, that's letting the Sarasvati of ourselves and the Lakshmi of ourselves and the Kali of ourselves, that's letting it really come forward in all its fullness, it's paralleled with the audacity of this passage. In fact, if some reference to Kali and Lakshmi and Sarasvati had been made in relation to Jesus at this time, if he did indeed stand up and speak these words, that would be an accurate description of the commanding presence that kept all the eyes fastened upon him. All he was reading that passage in that moment. That's all he was doing. But something about his presence and the way he read it, people were riveted And they say that they even watched him as he sat down because they were so riveted. And that is the presence we are talking about with the mother, Devi. We are evoking the presence we did yesterday. We are evoking Chamundaya, which is one of the consorts of Durga. So I'm going to type this mantra again in the chat box so you have it before you. And we are simply going to bring one part of ourselves. Yesterday we brought a challenge. Today I want you to bring something that you're feeling really called to embody. Owning your voice, speaking your truth, stepping into your healing powers, whatever it might be for you, being the fullness of presence right here and right now, whatever it might be, that we are going to harness that through this mantra. So in the chat, you've got the mantra. In the chat, you've got the mantra. Om Aim Reem Kleem Chama Bunde Viche. Whoop, it's Viche with an E. Viche. Om Aim Reem Kleem Chama Bunde Viche. So super easy. We're going to chant it like we did yesterday. And I'm going to remind myself, because I just got up another call. I'm going to remind myself of the way we toned it yesterday, just because I thought it was a very powerful way to tone it. And if you will remember yesterday, we had the first, the second, and the fourth line were all the same, and the third had a slight variance to it. So I'm simply going to remind myself of the tone. So if you can hear that, you got a little taste of what we're going to chant. Chant right along with me. And again, we're going to do it the same way we did it yesterday, and note the variances. So yesterday you brought a challenge. Today you are bringing a call and inspiration. And we're going to chant straight through 108 times together. So I invite you to close your eyes and draw to mind that call. I realized I spelled Chamundaya wrong. Together, collectively, we're holding each other's audacious intentions, something we're called into that's beyond our scope of knowing how we can be or become it. Beyond our scope. And invite in a breath and release. Invite in a breath. And we begin. Om Aim Reem Kleem Chamundaya Viche. 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 Om Aim Hrim Krim 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 Chayadana Viche. Om Aim Hrim Krim Chamundaya 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 Viche. Keeping the eyes closed, but opening to deep breathing. And relax your breathing. Notice any changes within yourself. And in this, wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Let yourself ground and integrate into the physical body. Bring the palms together and lightly rub them. Lightly rub them back and forth. And notice any differences from yesterday to today with the mantra. With the different intention, did it open you up in a different way? And I leave you with this question. How is the final statement in that passage true for you? Today, the scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing. How is it true for you of yourself? Blessings, my friends. See you tomorrow.